Oh, that was me. No, it's not. It's terrible. Wow, I'm huge in the corner. I don't like that at all. Oh well. Okay, this is your slide.
How is it picking up her over there?
You want me to move it over there?
No, it's picking up her over there.
No, everything is weird and I don't understand. You have to keep my phone.
Yep.
Okay. So are we good? Are you happy?
Yeah.
You registered, right? Registered for the, yeah, through the Friday, we'll use that and send you a link or we'll send it to you, the final. So with that, it's we open it 30 days, review it, and then, this is,
Can you still hear me, Lacey? Okay. The echo's gone. It was going through the computer. Did you hear that echo? Okay, I got rid of that. I just turned the volume on the computer off. Simple. Thank you. Tell me when. When? When? Okay. Is it okay if I sit? Yeah, why not? All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Matt Boyce. I'm the Arts and Education Program Manager with the Arkansas Arts Council. Also presenting today is Brazier Watts, Grants Program Manager as well. We're going to talk through all of the arts and education programs, rosters, major grants, mini grants, and then we're going to get into some of our other grants and programs with Brazier. And what we're going to do towards the end is teach you all how to navigate our grants portal and get a chance to look at some of our grant applications, how those kind of work. They could be a little confusing and complicated when at first glance, but they're actually pretty easy, very user-friendly. Brazier's been with the Arts Council for 12 years, and she's the expert in that, so she's going to be walking you all through that process. So our mission statement with the Arkansas Arts Council is we'll advance and empower the arts for the benefit of all Arkansans. Arkansas gives typically $1.8 million per year in grants. And as far as the arts and education grants go, I think this past fiscal year, about $766,000 of that 1.8 million went strictly to arts and education funds and back to the schools. So this is just a kind of blanket, what our major, all of our programs are. And like I said, we're going to get into details on these. For operational support, those are general operating support grants that we have. Our arts and education grants, there's in-school residencies, after-school summer residencies, and arts curriculum projects. Those three are the three major grants that are operated through the arts and education. And then we have our AIE mini grants, and then our Arts for Lifelong Learning / Veterans grants as well. Those bottom two under Arts and Ed are mini grants that we have. And also our program supports, we have collaborative support projects, Arts on Tour, which we'll get into a little bit here, and then Scarletts programs, the individual fellowships, and Sally Williams Artist Funds. And if you don't know Scarlett, she's our artist services manager. I'm sure everybody knows her. Yeah. Okay, let's start with the arts and education mini grants. These mini grant programs allow the pre-K schools, community organizations to fund artist residencies that bring quality professional artists into the classroom or after school summer programs to present 1 day to 10-day hands-on curriculum-based or character-centered arts activities. Artists must be selected from the Arkansas AIE roster for these programs, and we'll get to that roster a little bit. But mini grants are for those one-off type of programs. If you want to go in for just one class, just 1 day, or up to 10 days, schools utilize these a lot for their AIE mini residencies. These grants are up to $1,000. There used to be a match for them for cash, but thankfully we are moving towards, we've moved now towards in-kind donations. So what used to happen is if a school or organization wanted a mini grant and it cost them $1,000 or they requested $1,000 from us, they would have to match the $1,000. Now, since our mini grants, we're trying to get them to be more accessible. We've eliminated that match for these schools or organizations so that they can match with in-kind instead. What we've noticed is that smaller organizations typically tend to do these mini grants, and smaller organizations, even coming up with $500 as a match, can be somewhat of a hurdle. So we've gotten rid of that as well. And then our goal for next legislation in July is for any school that has at least 40% free lunch that they don't have to do any match whatsoever. So we're really trying to make this more accessible for schools and organizations, especially in the communities with needs. You have a question? Yes. Mm-hmm. No. So residency is the school organization hires the teaching artist to come in, and residency can just mean one class for an hour. It could be a 3-day lesson plan that the artist has come up with goals, objectives, evaluations, things like that I'll get into when we get to the actual roster application. And they're up to 10 days. So word residency makes it sound like you're sleeping there, but no, you're not. All right. I'm going to move on. Like I said, I'm going to get back to the artist roster here in a little bit. So the Arts for Lifelong Learning Veterans mini grants, these are the same type of residencies, but these are for adults. Lifelong learning, or what we call now is creative aging. That is the same criteria, but for adults. You're serving adults. Our veterans grants, we're really trying to push more too, and we've had some good programs recently. Our veterans grants are also mini grants. Those can be up to $2,000. They don't require a match, and it's our only arts and education grant where you don't have to have a artist on the roster come in and be the teaching artist. Typically, if they're, if someone says, well, I know this great singer from Mountain View, they're not on the roster, we want to do a veterans program, in November, and they've missed the deadlines for the roster, you don't have to worry with that for the veterans. We're trying to really boost our veterans grants, and really, we're very flexible, and we want to get back to the veterans. They're definitely a community in need. So there's less restrictions on that and more funds than a typical mini grant for that.
And we have people veterans homes and all that were not on the roster. They were already doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just like, we're not gonna make it. They were already doing it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it is really a community in need, and there's a lot of ways we can serve veterans, from PTSD to creativity to community to loneliness. There's a lot that we want to help them with and serve them. So we do whatever we can to be flexible with the veterans grants is, I guess, the best word I can use. Yeah. And please, did you enter the waiting room, Scarlett? What are you doing? Okay, I'll admit you. And please stop me if you have questions, because I don't like hearing myself talk for. Yeah, go ahead.
What does InSchool entail?
You know, I took that slide from our last presentation. I don't remember. Fraser, do you know what that means?
So some people do just, if you just want to do a general in-service workshop with teachers, we have people that do workshops with GetSmART. They used to get credit for it. I don't know if it's still.
I mean, we can, if we run a program, we can pay, so they were, so we were extra. So it's also.
So it really is the hardest one. It's really good because we used to have artists that we makes around, but that wanted to show teachers how to connect disciplines to their frameworks, so that they could still have arts programs. Because you all know a lot of arts programs and stuff that we know out of school or not. But we have teachers that are knowledgeable enough to know that a teacher, and you can still have arts, you have to know how to get in there. And the way to get in there is to connect it with connected with the framework that you already have.
Does anyone have any other? Did someone else have their hand? Yeah. For the veterans grant, yes. Yeah. So all of our major grants that we have are all for the AIE, are all matching grants. The mini grants now, lifelong learning and not veterans, lifelong learning and mini grants for AIE used to have to match $1,000, but we've changed it where you can match with in-kind. So in-kind can just be, I mean, yeah, space, yeah.
So you're still matching the 1,000, but it doesn't have to match. You used to have to. The schools used to have to say, we have this much cash that the school itself put into the project.
Right. And a lot of schools, they go through their budgets, in June or July for the following year. And, a music teacher might only get an extra $250, but they want to bring in, an expert in jazz. And it's like, well, it's going to cost this much for have that artist here for a week, and it's not going to be $250. So it's a hurdle that we've eliminated, and we're really proud of that, because it really, it helps the school and helps the artists, and not have to worry about finding funds, especially when they're told, we don't, this is all you get, and then good luck. So the larger grants, that just applies to the mini grants. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're about to get to, yeah.
We have added a part there where throughout the board, we have added our grant. So, yeah, now our services, what I was talking about, we added that, so we did not have.
So this is one of our first major grants. This is the InSchool Residency Grant. Grant funds will be used to place professional artists in residencies during the day or school year, specific school sites, or in conjunction with other nonprofit community or governmental organizations and institutions. This provides a way for artists to share their art form and related to pre-K to 12 curriculum areas. This is an AIE roster. Our AIE roster artists must be teaching artists for residency. So we'll get to the individual roster later, this one. This grant is up to $40,000 and it is matching. There's no minimum ask for it. The 40,000, when people see 40,000, they get scared. It's like, well, I can't do that. It could be, it could be $1,000. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be $40,000. It's up to $40,000. I've only been in this position since January, but I have gone around to some of the in-school residency programs that we've had in the state, and they've been anywhere from teachers and teaching artists going for 2 weeks, or teaching artists that go to one class period every day for an entire semester or an entire year, one of them. So the one particular program that was a year-long program was a couple, Maria and Jorge Villegas, am I saying that correctly? They do an in-school residency in El Dorado. Their art teacher that they have connected with and worked with is just overworked, like much art teachers are, and why they're dropping off. And she's doing more lunch duties and administrative things that she wasn't told she was going to have to do as an art teacher, and she can't find herself being able to teach art. She just doesn't have time. She doesn't have time to plan. So without those two coming in there and teaching her class, they wouldn't be, she doesn't think it would be a successful class, successful for the students. So they're really, really beneficial to especially teachers or schools that have art teachers that are just either falling off or overwhelmed or overworked or all of the above. And they've done great work. These in-school residency grants, for the next fiscal year, the deadline to apply for these is January 31st. I'm just going to talk, and Embracer, just look at me if I say something wrong. We work 5 feet from each other, and I always look over. I'm like, am I saying this right? All of the major grants, their deadline is January 31st. And that will be for next fiscal year, so next school year, if you want to look at it that way.
You have like job off for the grant, or you do that?
So organizations come to us with these grant applications, and they partner with schools, community centers, boys and girls clubs, anything like that. But this one is for just inside schools, so this would just be schools. They connect with the schools and then apply for the grant. The school, they say, we're going to go to the school, we're going to use this artist. This is our plan. Whether it's, like I said, a smaller ask or a bigger ask, and it's all laid out. And then later today, Brazier's going to show you we'll on the screen what in-school residency grant actually looks like and what the criteria is. But they do need to have schools involved. Some grants are one district, some are several, because they're like, we're doing this program all year long, but we're going to 15 schools to do it. Then that's why the ask is bigger. If that makes any sense. Any other questions on this?
Would there happen to be organizations that are doing that are
we do have all of our grantees. Brazier's got a very, very detailed database and what artists are being used. I believe so. No. Oh, okay.
Well, maybe not necessarily who's they need, but the artists.
Yeah.
And the artists that reach out.
Yeah. Yes.
So they have a spot on their roster.
Yes. Yeah. She's asking about a list of our grantees, our major grantees for AIU.
Oh, we don't. Okay, we used to make that. We might have, yeah. Okay.
It's all public record. Everything we do, it's open. So
You can call, we're all in our cars. You can call me, hey, Studio, this is all over.
yeah, yeah.
We're state agents, so.
And yeah, and we've had that request. I've had that request, you know, back in August, especially before, or like kind of when the school years are starting up. I've had our artists reach out and say, hey, who's doing stuff this year? Who's doing grants this year? There's a few, yeah.
I have a question, I'm sorry. If the school hasn't ever done it before, they just have to school, they're like, hey.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. There's a couple different paths to it. One of it is go directly to a school and say, hey, this is what I do. This is the program I'd like to do, and see if they're going to be a good partner for you. Or go to an already existing organization and say, hey, I'm a teaching artist. Can I be involved in your programming in some way, shape, or form? Yeah.
Right, well, oh, sorry, that, you said something that rang, you said, yeah, let's look at neat program.
Well, other school needs program, but by you going to your local school or going, most likely you're going to three kids that have never had these, and that's when the arts is more places. So it's great, go ahead and have that person, you think people know, but better go ahead and find those schools that do that. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Just letting them know that there's money, always, you're not going there as, figure out a way to pay, you know how many.
Yeah.
Grants.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's saying $40,000, but we have people that want $40,000. Whatever the capacity that they pay. So, you know, you're a small, you're about $40,000, you don't have
No.
capacity.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
Arts and entertainment, is that including music or separate from?
Every artistic medium possible. Every artistic medium
So
possible.
arts and entertainment would be like if it was music, would be
Yeah, absolutely.
as in songwriting.
Yeah. Yeah. Veronica?
Yeah, I was gonna check, so if we use the mini grant, that's something, in our roster, we can go directly, we'll contact them and do that.
Yeah.
If we use the in-school residency.
You would have to have a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
You have to have the 501c nonprofit organization apply for the grant. But then within the grant, which we'll get to, I'll show to you, you would include the schools that you're working with. If that makes sense.
Right, so.
See?
Yeah, I mean, and most people are not schools.
No.
Applicants are organizations that go into schools.
Art centers, museums, libraries, all of them they're all, yep. Mm-hmm. So I've been on the other side of this. I was my nonprofit, which is me and my wife, basically, started in 2013. I started with mini grants, and I tell every artist that's either thinking of doing a nonprofit or new nonprofits, to start with mini grants, because it's a good way to figure out how to write grants, how to kind of get your foot in the door, and then kind of work up to major programming. I mean, if you have the capacity and the funds and the support to do a major program at first, great, congratulations, that's amazing. But from my personal experience, I went to schools, said, hey, we teach tap dancing for free, kids that have never seen dance before. We have tap shoes, this is what we do. And then we got on the roster eventually. And then schools started applying for mini grants, and then we worked up to an in-school residency. So I think, guess I'm kind of patting myself on the back. I think that's kind of why I got this position, because I've been on that side of it, but I wanted to help more people like I was in need of 8 years ago. So that's where I started, and that's what I tell people to do. It's just talk to the school. We met with a dance teacher, saw us do a performance. It's like, hey, can you come to my class? And then from there, it just kind of builds up to that. So anything else about the in-school residency? Yeah. So 40,000 is the max ask for it. But again, these have matching. So that's why I said people see that 40,000 and they get scared. Yeah, they get scared. What they don't realize is they could ask for $1,500, or yes, it's up to that. So that's just, I've had that question before. That's why I brought it up, because like, well, we want to do an in-school residency, but we can't match $40,000. Yeah. So I tell them, just, come up with whatever your programming is, whatever that dollar amount is. Like Bridget said, 3,000, 1,800. Like I've seen that come through. So yes. Yes. Up to half in kind. Is that what it is? Yeah. And I didn't introduce Tanja before, by the way. This is Tanja. She also works with Arts Council. She's our community development manager. Well, we got like half the staff here. Okay, cool. Let's go.
How do you document
That's all on the budget form. So
the school does that?
the applicant does that. So, so either the nonprofit, in this case within school residency, would be the nonprofit that is applying. There's a whole budget form that they fill out, and part of that is there's a section where you list all of your in-kind 50% match, whatever it would be. So that 501c3 is you apply. Well, Scarlett is doing a work.
You have to maintain that yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe Scarlett has a workshop coming up soon. If you don't have a nonprofit and you'd like to start one, I think she has. Could you? Okay, that's literally what it's called. And when is that workshop?
On the Zoom. Okay. I don't know for sure. Yeah, it's on our Facebook page and also on our website.
And you could just be you starting a nonprofit. It's, that there'll be an expert that speaks on that. I know you do need to have a board of 3 people, but you can be a board member. You could be the president. That's what I did. I had myself, and then I got two other people to just kind of get me that status, because you need it through the state and then through the federal government. I will say that nonprofits take anywhere from 3 to 8 months to get approved by the federal government. State is quicker, but just keep that in mind if that's the path you're trying to go.
So the best thing you would want to do is that when the school gets approved to apply, not you apply.
Right.
If them to apply, you or another or a nonprofit, you know, or a community that would apply for a grant and are willing to, even if you have an arts organization, and they want to work with them, and so then the idea about going. It's not necessarily you have to. nonprofit organization, but you don't have this arts, education or programming. If you're not into the arts, it's gonna be very hard for panelists. And you're not, I mean, you don't really have something like, because you do the arts program. And it's our arts organization. You don't have arts involved at all in the organization.
Yeah. And for the major grants, our panelists that I've chose this past fiscal year, and I will choose again, are other arts and education program managers from other states. So we all kind of work in tandem, but we all have our little differences and things like that. But they work the same way that we do, where they deal with nonprofits, schools, things like that, and we use them as our outside panelists. So. Mm-hmm.
And so they have an arts program. It's out of their organization. You would think so.
Right.
Well, they have arts programming to help their kids.
That's art therapy. The state's in really a need of music therapists. We don't have a lot of those. Yeah, that's been an ask I've had, and I wish I could tell them, hey, I know all these music therapists. We just don't have that many in our state. Another big major grantee we have is Children's. They have 3 full-time teaching artists there, and their in-school residency is at the hospital, and they work with kids, whether it's if they're there for a day or they're there for 3 months. They offer art for the kids there, and it's a great program. Yeah. Hey, Scarlett. Not since I've been here.
I've talked to a couple of people that are interested.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So the nonprofit organization has.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. And then my last question.
You're fine. No, that's why we're here.
I'm a part of the nonprofit.
Uh-huh.
I'm a board member. I am an artist.
Uh-huh.
Does that nonprofit organization would that be respected on the campus? Like, it's a scholarship fund, but I'm on the board. Like, I'm a part of it. I have my master's degree.
Right.
I'm a focus teacher.
Right. Right.
Just that I'm on the board, was that organization qualified?
You could qualify, as long as you have a 501c3. So.
Or he's gonna talk to you about it in a little while, you need to get on the roster.
Yeah.
So how do you get on the roster?
We're gonna get to that. Yeah. So if you're not on the roster, I will say the only legal thing I remember is that if you're a board member, you cannot take funds from the nonprofit. Only reimbursements.
Okay.
So your board can't pay you to go teach somewhere if you're on the board. Now, if you're on the roster, the Arts Council pays you. You understand the difference? So
roster of that
of the Arts Council, our roster. So if you as an individual are hired by your organization and go teach, the funds come from us. The funds can't come from your board, basically your nonprofit, and then given to you because you're on the board.
Oh,
does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes. So say that again. Yes. Oh. Okay. Oh.
I want to be a part of all of it.
Yeah.
But that text. And I'm so much work. I teach performance.
Yeah.
I have my own curriculum. I know what the audience.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I like.
Yes, yeah.
That's my.
Well, we'll get to that, the roster very soon, but my point was just, you can't, if you're on a board, you can't get funds from your nonprofit, but if you're a teaching artist on the roster, the funds come from us, so you're not having any legal
Okay.
issues.
But would you be in would you be in a teaching artist, would you be in an artist, you're already on the board, you be on the board, and you all can bring other artists in, just the fact that you're on the board brings some,
Value.
establishment and value to the organization. Because they have our expertise on the board. And so, like, if you have a 501,
Right.
there's nothing stopping you 501 to the organization. So my mom was actually in her,
Mhm.
but we haven't done that yet. It's partly based in Arizona. So is there a barrier?
Yeah, well, it's quicker to get approved by the state. I don't know how transferring works, but I know that when I applied for my 501c3, it took like a month in Arkansas. I don't know how to transfer. I can't speak to that.
I think it was that because I don't know. But
It's fine.
I should have moved in the location.
Yeah.
We have to renovate.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's why I was curious if that was taken out in there that I'm the
one thing about the organization has artists always, but the artists don't have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like we have major organizations in West Memphis and Texarkana, and they're using people over the border a lot. You know, Texarkana have Texas people, they've got Tennessee over in West Memphis, but those are the artists. But the actual organization is in Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah. That's great. And you have a space, you said? You have a space already picked out?
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Just so keep rolling here. This is another major grant. This is the after school summer residency. Pretty much what we talked about with InSchool. This is just anything that's after school, outside of school hours, or during the summer. Settings can be after school summer programs, community neighbor centers, low income housing projects, etc. This is also same thing, major grant, nonprofit, 501c3, and this one is up to 15,000. Is that correct, or 10? $10,000. A lot of boys and girls clubs, YMCA's, things like that. All that summer community centers, things like that, can utilize this or do utilize this. Camps, we get a lot of summer camps that want to have an art program, in addition to just playing or kayaking or whatever people do at camps. I don't know. I never did camp. That's not really a big thing in Jersey, I guess. I don't know. So, yeah, we went to the beach, so we did. And those are up to $10,000 matching. And then our final major grant that we have is the Arts Curriculum Project Grant. This one is up to $15,000. Oh, it's 10? 10? Yeah, I think. Back? Yes, I did it. Yeah, Scarlett can send this slide to you. Yeah. You're good. That I know. Brazier, can you speak a little bit more on this one? Because this is the one I'm the least familiar with.
So this is actually one of my favorites. It's actually one of my favorites because it intentionally embroiders art in the curriculum, in the school, in the business of the day. So what people do is they sit down with the curriculum, their standards and all that, and they decide how they're going to incorporate art in their curriculum. It can be used in math, it can be used in science, and so we have people with these developing the standards that figure out a plan for how they're going to, their arts teachers, or they're going to bring in artists, of the roster to help them incorporate it. So they doesn't look like a standalone, not a standalone. And the principal will be like, we don't have time to put our art in school. So they're gonna want to figure out a plan that incorporates it in the curriculum in a way that will be acceptable by principal, by teacher. You know, it's not just adding to my day, but it's being incorporated in what we are. And so, we just make 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of work.
Yeah.
For someone to want to.
Yep. Yeah, I think arts integration programs don't realize they fall under this category so much, but they should. A lot of our in-school residency major grantees are already doing arts integration as their program, but this is what arts integration is. It's involving arts in all other subject areas.
Is that, you guys spoke earlier about, me going in and, working with a business class and talking about how to integrate technology run for, art practice and run for that. I should
It was just pointing out to me, it says applicants may also have special consultant for non-profit. So they you have to use artists that are non-profit, but you can use consultants, which people bring in consultants to help write their
Curriculum.
application. So you can, we ask them all of this.
Yeah.
On the application, we actually consultants. So, yeah, we bring in other teachers that are really into the integration and help write it. And help write it.
How many, like, what's the general scope of the, like, how long, or what's the involvement, like?
It's pretty much the planning and getting the curriculum approved and working with the teaching artists / consultants in schools. And once it's set, that's their school year. That's kind of how it runs. Like I said, this is the one I know the least about, so that's all I really had to do it.
This is a grant for someone to write. Well, also that's what they do. They use it to write, to create how their curriculum is going to go. But they also pay some of the artists who come make this work. I mean, it was coming in to make this work. I mean, yes, we're writing this, we're integrating it, we're writing this curriculum, but these are the artists we're going to pay to make it work.
Okay, and the pay of the artists that go in there, that's part of the
Yes. Yeah, of course, you don't get $10,000 to write a $20,000.
No.
I don't know how giving you are. I'm asking questions.
Holiday pay. So, yeah, you're right. That was a good question. That makes sense to me, right? But no, they're not just putting the plan together, but they always have to initiate whatever needs to be done.
Okay, and, if that's created, like, is there I guess we'll see it from. I was wondering, is that something for a plan for something that's revisited once a month or something, or like while they're, like, how does the other one work?
They have a person that spearheads it and makes sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. They have a person, yeah, that's over it to make sure that things are going right. So I'm sure they read it. And you can do everything from bringing teachers to brainstorm. You know, they have people about a part of it, the teachers in the schools, so they bring in different teachers to be brainstorm and decide how this is all going to play out.
When they build a plan, like the plan of action for integrating it, means part of it, and and then they implement that. And then they hire help, bring in, like, maybe you're not.
And if we want to pull up that application, we can do that as well. That application is very heavy on integration and evaluation, surveying, tracking everything's more data based compared to the other two major grants. Yeah.
I do know from teaching that to build the curriculum, it has to be actually written down in a certain way, approved by the administration. Once it's approved, they turn it into us. If I build, if I this grant and I build my curriculum,
No, all they do is they give us their proposal and their plan.
oh, so you never see the curriculum?
No, I haven't seen. We only had 3 last year, Scarlett.
Well, they don't final report in which they report.
Oh yeah. You have to report everything in the end. But no, they don't actually hand us their syllabus and all that stuff. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. Anyone have any questions?
Like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
Questions on this? No? Yeah. Oh, yes.
The matching,
Uh-huh.
where does that money have to come from? Could it come from like someone in the community, like a business,
Yeah.
like a sponsor type?
Yeah, they would give the money to the nonprofit. Say, look, I'm doing this program. Would you like to be a sponsor? Would you like, private donations?
And it could be for the one.
Yeah.
Like if you could raise the match.
Yeah.
In the community, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
fundraisers.
Yeah, fundraising.
And it's all her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So others can give money to the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Or your
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, get.
Okay.
Would that be like sponsoring, let's say, okay, we're having someone on the program, you get someone to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Or a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Like we had $5,000, we had that. So
Yeah, I know like I don't know, it's not applies to this grant, but the funding thing, like the Children's Tumor Foundation, they do a camp, and part of their big fundraiser that they do every year is to sponsor a kid to go to this camp, and it's like, okay, it costs $2,000. Who wants to sponsor a kid? And they throw money everywhere.
And it can be it don't have to be a business, it could be a person.
No, it's person to business, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Some nonprofits even give to each other sometimes, or partner with each other. But we could talk about that partnering nonprofits later. Okay. So like we talked about before, with all of the mini grants, except for the Veterans Grant, and then all of the major grants, the artists that need to be using these programs need to be on the Arts and Education artist roster. This is an online listing of professionals, artists accepted for residencies after an independent panel review process. Grant applicants coordinate projects with selected AIE roster. We talked about that before. The organization would pick out their artists, or vice versa. If you're just starting out, you can reach out, say, hey, I'm on the roster now. I would like to do this programming. You're already in the school in Hot Springs. Can I be a part of your program? And then you can do that. So, nope. This is where I'm supposed to show the application and talk about it. Hold on.
So while he's doing that, one thing is that we have to remember that your in-kind folks with is that our money can only go to pay people that are on our roster. That doesn't mean that's all we can use. To pay people in your program, schools or organizations, and programs they watch it. So that's what that other money helps with, is for you to pay other people that you want to use that are not on mean, we can take your application and we can have more people involved in the people that are on our roster. We're not saying all your artists have to be on our roster, but the ones that get paid with our money have to be on our,
Right.
I have to be on the roster.
All right, so to get to the roster application, you simply go to arkansasarts.org, and then this page will come up. You'll scroll down to the arts and education here, and then right to the right, the application period just ended, but the form is still up. I wanted to keep it up to show you all. This is where all the necessary information is going to be for you. Let me pull up the application form, and we could talk through that. So here we got name and or organization name. You could be, if you have a nonprofit, like for me, my nonprofit was Untapped. Untapped applied for the arts and education roster. It's called the individual roster, but a nonprofit can go on there. You don't have to just be an individual to do that. You can be. You can just be like, hey, I'm Matt. I want to be on the roster. That's a common misconception. People asked me before, like, well, I have a nonprofit. I said, well, what you should do if you have a nonprofit is have the nonprofit apply for the roster. Then every time you do programming, everybody that's involved in your nonprofit can do the programming, can do the residencies, can do the mini grants. So for instance, for me, if I applied as Matt Boyce for the roster, I'm the only one that can be hired for these mini grants, paid, and do this program. But since I did it with Untapped, everybody that's all of the dancers that I have and teachers that I have, they go out to the schools, they do the programming, Untapped gets paid, and then I pay them. Does that make sense? So if you're just doing yourself, then you're going to limit what you can do. Like if you have a functioning nonprofit with several people that you're like, hey, I've got 5 people in this band. We're all capable of teaching a music class. They could go out under that name. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, does it have to be like, is it just nonprofit and just yourself personally, or could like our band is not a nonprofit, but we apply under that name?
Yes. Yes. No, you don't have to be a nonprofit to be on this. I just happen to be. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. So your Monster Boy Lives, thank you. So Monster Boy Lives can apply, and then anybody that's associated with you can go out and do the program.
Does that mean a business?
I don't know the answer to that.
Arts organization that's on the.
Yeah, like the symphonies are on there, ballet's on there, museum.
Yeah, they do arts.
Who is it?
But they don't have a 501c3.
No, that's the roster. Like the roster. You don't have to have a 501c3. You don't. You're an entity. Yeah, that makes sense.
Technically set up an entity that's not a nonprofit.
An LLC or something,
You know,
just a band name, or a band name even, or
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, if it is an LLC, then, if we are on the road touring, but we have our slides developed, we have the steps, we train up other musicians to do it, we can send them in under that name.
Yeah. And then that entity would be paid, and then you would pay whoever did the program. Yeah. That's what I did for 7 years.
Or an individual.
Or an individual can do it, yeah.
And then make.
No, if you apply as an individual, you're the only one that can go in and can get paid.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
okay, but if you have a
Business, nonprofit, band name,
that's within
juggling group,
or anybody. Okay.
Okay.
weird miming stuff. I don't know. We've got a lot of stuff in there. Sorry for your mime. Yeah.
me hit on this. On that roster, I know when I made my application, the
Mhm.
problem I had is I had taught adults, but not kids.
Right.
And I thought the pick for this roster was exclusively the K through 12.
Mhm.
Is that the case?
No, that's not the case. So I'm literally,
So
you're
I-
literally one step ahead of me. So
Okay, I'm sorry.
let's just know you're good.
I'll let you move there.
The state senator, state representative thing is very simple to look up. Just look up your zip code. That stuff is easy to find, but it's necessary. Then you put your disciplines down here in this section, and then here's what we get to, Veronica. So, preferred age level residency participants. Now, I applied for this roster, was denied, didn't have good paperwork, came back, and one of the major comments that I had, and then I saw again in our panel in July, was that people were just selecting, like, seemed almost random at times to me, just from my perspective. But for instance, I've noticed that some artists would say, can work with all ages, but then their lesson plan, and like we'll get to that in a second, in their narrative, was catered for K to 3. So what the panelists did, and all the panelists are excellent educators and also happen to be on our roster as well. Their question was kind of like what you mentioned was, well, you said you can work with all ages, but you only gave me evidence or a plan for K to 2. How are you going to work in Peter and the Wolf or whatever for 17-year-olds? You know, so it might seem like a little tiny thing, like, oh, this box, whatever. It's actually really important, because when you do this application, the narrative that has like the lesson planning and programming, residency goals, they're going to look at that and say, okay, well, if you selected all ages, you need to give us an example of the difference, what you're going to do with a kindergartner versus 6th grader versus an adult. If you just want to be there for an adult, just say high level, which this needs to be updated, by the way. There needs to be an adult box here. I'll fix that. That it needs to match up. Otherwise, it's gonna raise a flag for the panelists.
So my follow-up question to that, like, so my application, I could just switch that to high level.
Yeah.
And adjust my wording.
Yeah.
Do that, and then, because that's where my experience is, but I bring that in school.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something I can get on the roster with this, and then if a school with the information, what I present, I can get hired that other demographic, or will my application, like my selection, block?
That's a good question. I think that kind of goes back to what I said when you select all ages, is to provide different plans for each one, and not so blanketed.
Yeah.
Some people were like, well, this could work with, like doing a musical theater class. Well, this could work in science class, and then they don't say, well, what does that mean? How can you go into a science class and do a theater, residency? My advice is cover every basis, and if you're doing different ages, to have a very specific and clear and different plan for each one. That's my advice, and I really do need to add adult as a box there, because there are some programming that's just for adults. That's for lifelong learning. So
sorry,
you're good.
So our selection on here and what we presented on here is going to be viewed in that's what I'm trying to figure out, in the approval process of us getting into the school.
Oh.
Or so like, because what I was struggling with is getting documentation of where things could be applied, like going into those spaces and teaching that class and those different spaces, so that I have it to submit for the for something later on that you're gonna touch on. But if I already have the documentation of me in this type of program and with adults, can I submit that application as adults only?
You could, yeah,
And then that puts me on the roster, and then
Right.
if a
yes,
a 12th grade
Yes.
teacher wants to hire me
Yes.
to come in, okay.
yes.
So,
Yeah. If you think that that's where your strengths are,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. If there is no, there's no limitation once you're on the roster, they're not gonna, say, well, can't go work with pre-K.
Okay.
Once you get your profile page up there, you can say prefer older ages, but can work with any, like you could do that on your own page. Once you.
So if you're an artist, you have to apply for it.
Yeah, Arts on Tour roster is completely separate. And I've got a little brief thing on that, yeah, sorry.
When is this open up again?
So it used to be once a year, and then I thought that was kind of ridiculous because you miss it. Hey, see you in 12 months. We did one that closed in November for December, and only got 2 applications, and it's going to open up again in, I want to say April or May, and be reviewed in July. So it's twice a year now. So I want to have it in July before the next school year, and then December, that's the review date. And then in December for the winter and spring semester. I just feel like it lines up better with the school year, colleges and things like that too, that use our roster. I think once a year thing was, I think it's just been like that for forever, and nobody ever thought about it. Yeah, that's the one thing I hate. And I take those phone calls like, hey, I want to apply for the roster, like here, like 3 weeks ago, it closed.
Yeah.
And if we do it once a year, it's like, okay, see in 11 months, it's so like defeating too. You're like, oh, I just missed it by like three weeks. I'm like, I'm really flexible with things like this though, like for the roster, especially like people turn in things 1, 2, 3 days late. I'm like, cool. I'm not this giant barrier that's like, no, you must this time, this date, 11:59. If not, better luck next year. That's not how I operate, because as an artist, I'm the same. I'm not perfect with the schedule and timing and things like that. So I feel for those people that have gone through that before. So it'll be twice a year. So the next one, I think I opened it April or May, the application. I'll update it, like adding this thing that we talked about before, and then the review will be in July. Oh, July. You hear that?
If I had known just to click over on adult, I mean, I would have been number 3. But yeah, November or October was.
Like I said before, so my kind of journey with my nonprofit was, we got into schools, things like that. We did, I want to say about 18 just free workshops in schools, kind of in Central Arkansas and Hot Springs, before we applied the first time. And I did the paperwork, and I overlooked some things, and I got immediately denied. Stuff in the lesson planning section and the narrative that we got to just wasn't detailed. I'm doing this, like, do you not see what I'm doing? I've been to all these schools where it was just, but the panel just, they've got to go by what they're seeing on this page, like checking a box. It seems so simple. They're going to fixate on that, and then you're done, you're denied. And I was ready to give up, and my wife was like, no, let's do it. We kept doing what we were doing. We kept going to schools. We had more evidence. We cleaned up our paperwork, and then we were. I really encourage people who are like yourself, who were not approved, to really look back at the comments and say, okay, well, why?
Yeah.
Tell me why. And that's why I'm here. I want everybody to get on the roster. I want to have 5,000 people on the roster. Like, I want everybody to be on there. I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm here to help. So
do you help us with this process?
I can.
Because I clean toilets for a living, so I don't have to do office work.
Yeah.
Because I'm a songwriter.
That's great.
And so
Yeah.
that part's terrifying
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I am here to help. I am. And honestly, when it gets closer to the date, if you literally want to come to our office, I will sit down on a laptop with you, and I'll show you examples of other applications. I will walk you through it. And that's why, like I said, that's why I'm here. I'm not here for you to get overwhelmed or nervous. I'm here to help you get on the roster. That is my
See,
job.
you've already encouraged me, because I'm about to do what you did and do this for free
Yeah,
while we're
Great.
waiting, because
it's great. you know, it's written somewhere that nonprofits are supposed to have, this is some law that nonprofits are supposed to do X amount of stuff for free and not be paid. I'm not sure how many people really follow that law, but I mean, we did. I mean, you know, that's like, yeah, your school can't afford to bring us in, but you want 300 second graders to watch a tap show? Yeah, we'll be there. And it's just more, that was like when we did the Arts on Tour thing. I was like, yeah, we'll do it. Look, we did this school show. That's why we're here. So anything you could do, if you have the needs, the time, and the love for what you do, then go do it for free. If it doesn't, yeah, it just helps people and gives back. So. And it builds your resume on top of it. It does.
And if you perform it, kind of the arts on.
Yeah, and if you're a performer, Arts on Tour is another option.
Also has,
Yeah, good.
we also have another point you take note is that when your organization that you're working, when they apply, if they're applying and they have people that they want to use their model cost, they can be in turn in an application. Hey, I want to apply for your grant, but I want to use these people that are not on your roster. They can send me an application.
Right. So our major grants that close on January 31st that we talked about before, if they have an artist that they want to use, and when they submit their grant to me, I check to see if they're on the roster. Last year we had, I think, 3 individual artists who these nonprofits wanted to involve in their major grants. So at the end of all the major grant reviews, I kept the same panelists there, and they reviewed the individual artists then, and that's in April, that review. So if you do connect with a nonprofit, say they're applying for an InSchool residency, they want to use Monster Boy Lives, then in April, when that major grant gets reviewed, that same day, those artists will get reviewed as well.
Okay.
Only 1 out of the 3 was denied out of those artists, and then they applied again in July, and
So this application opens up April or.
yeah, I think that's what I did last year, but the review's in July, so it'll close in like June 15th-ish, 14th, around there. I can't remember the exact date, but I'm just gonna talk through this as dates and times. You know, just be upfront and honest. Say I can only work during the school year, or all year long. This is requirements or equipment. This is big for musicians, visual artists, material, things like that. This down here is experiences in teaching, workshop, or residency situations. This is your resume of what you've done, where you've been, and then down here, this is really the most important part of the application is the lesson plan portion. So like we discussed before, there's no limit to how many lesson plans you can submit or how many different plans that you have. Like I said earlier, covering as many bases as possible is your best, probably the best idea for you to do. So for instance, if you say you could do songwriting with K-2, you can do that. It'll take me 5 days. Here's the plan. And then you go from that all the way down from number 1 to state standards. That's all. That's the link is on this previous page for all the state standards, lesson plans, materials, etc. Then you could say, okay, I could also do songwriting for veterans. Here's my plan. There's no limit to that, and the more you do and the more specific you are with each one of your plans, the stronger your application is. If you put yourself in a box, you're limiting yourself before you're even on the roster.
So you would want to get everything on the roster at the beginning instead of just starting out with one area and adding to it?
You could do what Veronica said and say, this is my program for adults. This is what I could do. That's fine. That does work. For me, because I was denied, we didn't cover all areas. So I went back and covered all areas, and that worked too. So every panel is different too. So your panel could have focused on one thing that my panel focused on another. If you do just pick one thing, just be really strong and really detailed, and especially with the objectives, the assessment, evaluations, things like that are really important. The schools want to know like what came out of this and how did this help our kids after the residency ended? Okay, what did they learn? What did they learn about life? What did they learn about collaboration or you know, literacy, things like that? Like what came out of songwriting for them that they're going to use in the future or help them succeed in other things in the future. So if you are just going to choose one path, just make sure it's really strong. But I picked one path and failed first time. So I went back, I was like, oh, I got to cover everything. I wrote a crazy lesson plan, 5 of them, me and my wife. As in, I told my wife what we should do, and she wrote it. I'm bad with words.
What is that?
That is a married couple thing, yeah, I believe.
Well, it used to, but before we got married, I used to like say what I wanted to say, she'd type it out. Then like when we were engaged-ish, I would write things and then hand her the computer, and then she would edit. And now we're at the point where I say, does this make sense? And usually I'm at like a 90% success rate now, where she's like, yeah, that sounds good. And I'm like, yes. Like, I had to submit something for some program. We're doing some Christmas program thing, and she only changed one line. I was like, oh, that's really good. Really good. Scarlett, your mind is blown, or what? What is that reaction? Or are you not? Are you just not surprised? I do the same thing with Lindsay. I'm like, Lindsay, that's our public information officer. I'm like, Lindsay, can you make this make sense?
I'm writing stuff. I edited a lot of that.
See?
She said, I hate it too.
I was across our community, I was like, that was editing it.
Well, feel free to go in there.
Oh, I was free.
Did you do it? Oh, you did that? Okay, well, thank you. But you are a writer, though,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Okay.
Go ahead,
And
Rachel.
I must say that we have had in the past, we have had people who have to start out on the arts on tour roster and work their way up to the arts and
That's what we
education
did,
roster,
yeah.
because they didn't have their education ready, secure yet, but they wanted to get started. And so they started on the arts on tour, which is about the performance and not the education. So they started out on the performance roster and then got their education
Right.
needs together as they were doing performances and were able to get on the education.
If you happen to be there performing.
That's what we did.
Stay a little bit.
That's what we did.
Make
We
pictures, right?
we would do like short little like assembly shows and then teach classes after.
So what qualifies you as an educator? Like I've taught preschool
Mhm.
for 6 years.
So technically, this roster is not. You're not really an educator. You are technically a teaching artist for the arts and education
What
roster.
qualifies you to be the, like I've studied over 10,000 hours on that.
That's something that you would definitely put in your in your summary here.
This is the what they did.
So right here, so
Provide teachers that have taught you. I mean, yeah, we're basically vetting.
Yeah.
what we want to teach. And being like, yes, this person has quality.
So right here, so right after the lesson plan section, I'm glad you brought that. Perfect segue. Use the headings of background and AIE programs to provide a written description of background, your education, professional affiliations, current artistic or resident activities, and for the program, describe your approach to your art form in an educational setting and provide an overall description of one of your residency programs. So there, right there is, hey, here's how qualified I am.
Okay.
Throw it all out there.
Yeah, because you don't actually, I mean, you have people across the not actually teachers.
No, they're
They
teaching
teach their-
teaching artists
Yeah,
is what they
teach
are.
their craft. They do that. And they describe how they can do that, but they have.
So you agree.
Right, so you got one up, I mean.
Yeah, you don't need a degree. You don't.
Yeah.
You just need to be an expert in your field, and if you happen to have all that other stuff on top of it, I've got all this training, things like that, that just strengthens your application. So, does that make sense?
That may help you keep later on.
And then just signature page. We don't need to really get into this now, but all these 3 documents are here. This is basically your tool to fill in your application. It's all on the same. It's all on the same page right here. I put application form just previously, and then the guidelines above it. This is where you get all of your standards, curriculums, all these weird codes that they use for every grade. It says, you know, I'm covering STEAM for 4th grade to 6th grade, this number, things like that. We asked for that in there, just because we do have to go by state standards, Common Core standards, and things like that. And then there's just more details on what we talked about before with arts integration. If that's what you're deciding to do with curriculum, this is all whole deadlines. But this is your tool. If you need help kind of walking through the application, this is what this document is created for.
I have an idea of one of these workshops, because figuring out what I was doing and how that translated to the whole coding system.
Yeah.
Hurt my brain.
Yeah.
Hurt my brain bad.
Yeah, it's the toughest part of it. It's the toughest part of it. If you know.
Maybe a workshop that literally just walks people through.
Yeah, I've actually, we've got a really good new fine arts person at the Department of Education. Her and I have been working together on something. I could connect her with Scarlett. See if she could do that. I mean, she could tell you what standards are for what grade and what code, and like off the top of her head.
Yeah.
And she's solid. She's done a great job so far. We've got some really good ideas, to help them. And she was a former teacher too, for 18 years. So maybe we can hook her up with Scarlett.
Where just giving all of that content.
See? My point is she would be willing. My point is she would be more than willing to do something like that. She would be good.
I just remember like that hurt my brain bad.
Yeah.
It's just opening it up and looking at that stuff.
Right.
I was like, and I don't belong in here, you know?
Do you overlook like the written part for if I want to, because you're a writer and I'm creative and all of that, will you overlook if I ask?
One of the 3 of us can look.
I mean, you said you're a writer.
She is, yeah.
Because all of that is writing, that whole stuff.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I'm gonna speed through the rest of my stuff because we've got 30 minutes and I want Fraser to get to found it and actual looking at some of the grants, and you can see the language and what they're looking for. So once you are on the roster though, this is all on the same page. This is basically our database here. You know, we have disciplines. This is where organizations and schools go for when they want to hire in a teaching artist. Let's say theater. We can't find anybody. That's not true. Okay, cool. No, it's going really well so far. How about we just do
That's a glitch on the page.
discipline? There we go. Discipline, music. Everyone, so you type in music. Everyone that's got music comes up, and there's more. All these people. So let me just go to page that's not my own. On there, and then this is basically your elevator pitch. Once you're on there, say kind of who you are, a little bit of where you come from. It's you know, someone that doesn't know you. If you want them to you know, learn about you, what you can do, what your programming is. This guy, Tim Anthony, says where he's from, what he's done, and then it gives a direct link to a website. We're working on getting a social media tag here too. That's something that we're trying to to add to the rosters, email, direct phone number, and then preferred age level, availability, and then special. And then it shows you other artists related to that. Okay. Let's see, where was I? I don't know. Is that here? Yes. That's the website. Yep, did that. Okay. Razor's turn. Yay. Yeah, just she's just gonna blanket some of our other grants, things like that, and then we'll get to the founding stuff. So if you want me to click for you, I can. Okay. Yeah.
So these are just a few of the other opportunities that we have. It looks like you all are all pretty much interested in arts and education. But just in case you come across some organization while you're out there and this information may be helpful, we have a general operating support grant. And it is just what it says. It's designed to help organizations with operating expenses. Arts organization with operating expenses. So they can use these funds to pay staff, as it says down there, to pay staff, to pay rent, utilities, maintenance. This is to help the art organizations to operate. We find everybody from the Arkansas Arts Center to Arts and Crafts School, all over the state. We find organizations all over the state. The Repertory Theater, we help, they get funds from us. And we have $1 million organizations, a little $50,000. $50,000 is the least amount that you can have an income that we will help. And the funding is based on your actual amount of income that you have budgeted for the year. So according to your categories, a certain percentage you can ask for. Now, the thing with general operating support is the state dollars, match the art and education is federal dollars, is pretty blanket amount. State dollars kind of go up and down. So therefore, you can ask for, organizations ask us for like 75, like of course the Arkansas Arts Center, they $1 million organization over $1 million. So they ask us for as much as they can, which ends up being like $75,000. But they only get 20,000 because there's a panel review that takes place on the application, but then it depends on how much money we get, state money we get. So we actually tell people, ask for as much as you can, and then we'll give you as much as we can. And that's how that works. But organizations like this, because they're able to pay costs, administrative costs, staff, rent, all that. So that's general operating support. This is exactly collaborative thing. Yep. So the collaborative project support is community-based grant. So if there's an arts project that your organization wants to do in the community, and you want to partner with another organization, and we fund anything from the things that Conway has a festival, different festivals, fairs. People want to do just a mural in their area, and they want to partner with another organization and get it done. The big thing about this is that the organization you work with, it has to be a true partner. The panelists will look to review your application and make sure you have a true partner. It's not just on paper, but they're actually helping you with some of the finances. They're helping to bring this together with you. A real partnership. Now, we ask you to have other partners, find other resources, that's great, but you have to have at least one that's got your back. We're doing this together. You apply for your organization is the head that applies for the grant. You have to prove partnership. And these grants are up to $10,000. Like I said, we have people that apply for it. I just want to do a little $2,000 project, community project, in my area, arts project, in my area, bringing people together. We ask them to make sure that you are targeting at-risk communities or at-risk. They don't have to be just at-risk groups, at-risk community, which is really easy for tour, but I want to talk about the grant, the arts on tour grant. You talk about the roster. But what the grant is that if you are able to get on the roster, I call it, which is probably too simple, but anyway, I say shop yourself around. You go to different schools, you go to different organizations, and say, I'm on the roster at the Arkansas Arts Council. They will pay you 40% of my cost to have me perform at your event, at your school. And so that usually gets people to the door. Oh, okay, they'll reimburse us 40% of what you're charging them. Yeah. And that's a tool that the artists on our roster are able to use to get out and perform different places, different areas.
So I've actually approached theaters organizations before because my nonprofit was on the Arts on Tour first, and a lot of them didn't even know about this. I was like, well, it's going to cost for this performance $1,500. I'm like, but do you know that you can just apply for this grant for the Art Council and get 40% of that back? They're like, what is that? Like, what is that? And then maybe you can explain how the application grant process works and who has to do it.
So it's up to $2,000. So the 40% can be over $2,000. So basically, you can't charge over $5,000 for your event. You don't have many people charging. But we have big bands that are all on the roster. And so the organization applies for it, and they pay you, and we reimburse them after they prove they paid. Then we reimburse them 40% of what they paid you, not just the past $2,000.
Uses, we love it, so we definitely encourage people to get on it. One question I have, and I wasn't clear on, let's say an organization has like 4 events a year. Would that be 4 separate applications, or can they only get $1,000 max?
They can only get $2,000 max for the year. That's it. Okay. Each organization can only get $2,000. But how you use that is up to you. Like I said, they could have 4 different events. Yeah. I mean, we have a place that has like 10 events, but each event, like, it's just a small amount, $250. And so they have a bunch of events until they use their $2,000. But yeah, it's $2,000 per organization, regardless of how they decide.
Also, is there a list that we can have for organizations last year?
Sure, people ask me for that. We have people that ask us, it's called a presenters list. And yes, you can get the presenters list of people that have includes arts on tour, arts and education. It's a huge list, but it's you get it in alphabetical order, you see all the organizations.
I like to randomly bring a board, and also I like to think out of these
That already have experience, they know how to fill out the application, you know. Especially if we have a lot of libraries. You'd be surprised in the summer. Libraries love bringing in arts on tour people for their summer schedule. Yeah. That'd be great.
So we just had our Arts on Tour roster panel go through. Next year is going to be the one that goes back to normal. If you are a performing artist that wants to be on this, it's basically an audition-based application just to present your work, whether it's an individual or a group. When we did it in person. This past year was via Zoom, so everything was video-based. So it's a little not quite the same. But if you are interested in the Arts on Tour roster, just know that that's more of a audition in person rather than crazy amount of paperwork. That makes sense. There's no educational component. Okay.
Even though some people do add the education, like we were talking about the campus, they do that. They do their performance and then they add some. I think they're from over.
Scarlett, you want to real quick do your stuff and then we'll get to the founding.
Okay.
Oh, if they're on both rosters, is that something that they could apply for 2 segments of the same event? or would that be separate? So let's say you're going out to school, you're doing a performance during lunch, something like that. And then later on, you're going into the classroom.
Yeah, those would be separate. So one would be probably a mini grant through the AIE for the class, and then the performance would be the AOT, the Arts and Sport.
Awesome.
Real quick, Scarlett's just going to talk about other programs for it. No, there you go. That's after this.
This is the Individual Artist Fellowship Award. So annually we give a award of 5,000 individual artists, and it's based solely on what the work has been. It's not proposals, not the last to do anything. Basically just to reward creative who are creating an art style. So all you have to do is live here, be 21, and actually have been doing art. We have rotating categories, and so this year it is literary, monologue, theater monologue, stand-up comedy for performing arts, and
Is this correct? Is this screen correct? Oh, that's last year.
Correct, this is last year, but no, this is this year. This is this year, yeah. Really for on campus, art with a tactile component, the full face history art, that art you experience in more than one way, to be more inclusive, like it allows you to experience things with multiple senses. Community engagement art, that was a pretty cool one. It's basically like part of the dialogue, maybe even bringing facts, highlighting issues, things that are important to the community. We had creatives that did things like walk out to a hearing code, walk outdoor theater to different communities that are experienced otherwise. Creative, it's like they called it kind of like delivering pizza, but delivering pizza. Contemporary craft with a metal component, so it can be any kind of technique that uses a heritage or artistic background, but used in a different way. So it takes the functionality out of it. Right? That makes sense all. And oh yeah, those will open December 30th.
What do you just have to do that?
Yeah, you just have to do that.
Have y'all ever had music artists together?
Last.
We had last year. So the top three are the ones that were out, and then the bottom three are an expansion through the Inkind Foundation grant us. And so we rotate the top traditional three out. Last year was a music writing.
So, and it's not like Scarlett won the fellowship what year?
Oh yeah.
And I won one in 2019 for dance choreography, and yours was for right. So those were rotating categories, and it's just a check. It's not like do anything with it. It's just honoring your work and what you do.
So find out, do y'all have like a email blast that? Because I thought I was on them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No music.
People that do this kind of stuff need to do so you can see it.
Yep.
Well,
okay. Pause. Yep. Sorry.
It is a grant, so you still have to apply. And there will be a panel review, and it's a panel review. So the way that would work is to go when they open, from current thing, you go online and apply there. They're going to ask things like, if you're a visual artist, it will be a portfolio, but included in that will be some sort of a statement, narrative statement about you. So we kind of pared down what you actually need, but you still need to give me images of work, details of your work, some of your background, your story, basically, and then pretty much it. You now allow, if you didn't want to write out all of that, you can actually just do a video and record yourself. Tell your story on video, put the link into your portfolio, and you upload it. It's all one thing.
What's the amount?
5,000 each.
And the deadline?
April 14th.
April. Okay. And free for category? And to get these dates and deadlines, I have to, what do I need to be a part of? Like, an
It should be
email
part
blast?
of our email blast that we sent those out last year on our newsletter, our website, we post on our Facebook page, all of our social media goes out.
Usually our newsletter comes out like the
Once
first
a month.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure it's not going to stay. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Now, you can only apply to one, so like, you can just move through this and be like, well, I do stand-up comedy and I do.
And these people have to be on y'all's roster too?
No, it's anybody.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is a very open grant, and I think, I was always surprised that we don't get like just flooded thousands of that, we don't.
Yeah. We know that.
The literally, like this one, I know it's a little bit, the performing arts with the stand-up comedy is literally for performing. So like their categories where their application is a different bar, right, or than monologue. So we actually are requiring them to submit links to video clips and stuff. I'm just gonna performance kind of video. Music last year was the same way, we had videos of performance.
Yeah.
Right?
Was that Delta Blues?
It was Delta Blues, singer, songwriter, or score.
Yeah.
So it didn't have to have actual thing. It has the original music. But like the theater monologue, that the person who would be mine has the opportunity to go ahead and put it down in there if they wanted to. But it's more about like using the script.
Then they wrote.
Right.
That's
Yeah. Everything can be the original, like with the visual artist.
Yeah.
If you are painting from someone else's picture, we won't do that, and I will run it through the system.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I will Google image that stuff. But we've had people who are that way, they think it's original just because they did something themselves from a picture that somebody else took, and that's not how that works. That's somebody else's work.
Yeah.
So this is has to be on.
Yes, this year it has to be, and it can't be mixed.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
mixed yet. It's either acrylic or wool. But it's open to any kind of genre. So if you're surrealist, fine. If you are, I don't know, doing the Blue Riders, okay. Maybe your data, I don't know. But laundry and any of that, like we're crossing over where realism to abstract.
So acrylic or oil paint, that's not just a regular paint. That's something. Like my mom was a painter.
Okay, so acrylic is it's actually becoming much more used, but it is a plastic-based medium that is it's paint consistency, except that it dries super fast. And it's become, I think it started really gaining traction in the 50s, and now it's like becoming much more, it's a much more better fiber to make. Before we would hang on it, we was like, oh, this is too plastic, this is cute. This other stuff, oil painting, that is traditional, like hundreds and hundreds of years. I don't know, like we've been using that for a long time. And it's a medium that is very traditional and is, I think, can be manipulated in multiple ways because it dries so slowly. You can add some things that help it dry faster, but it is a super slow dry.
I need to ask what she would. And those categories are changed next year.
Right. Yeah, we never offered one for comedy, so I'm pretty excited about that.
I'm very excited. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, I wrote that down.
That's for now. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It is for this fiscal year. It opens December 30th, so I guess technically it's for next year.
20 hours.
Yeah, our fiscal year is weird, so that's why it says, that's why it's for free. But it's for now.
It opens now.
Yeah, it's gonna open December 30th. I don't know how to say it. April 14th.
The application's open December 3rd.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we do a whole big reception.
Yeah, we throw an art party now.
Yeah, it's really cool. Open bar, food.
And their shows is on cable.
Well, no, that's when the deadline closes, because you have to think about this. I have to, put together like
Six
six different, panels, all 3 people, who then have to decide when to meet, then have to review all of the applications. And yeah, I mean, it's a whole process, and people are like, let me know right away, I'm like, I can't do that. So we usually tell people in, like July, but I'm sure you have some May this year, hopefully. Don't tell me if I'm wrong.
Do you want to talk about Sally real quick, because we're getting low on time, right?
So since this is Little Fair, we pay up to $500 for, well, to the match for a professional development workshop. So people like to take a writing conference, art business development workshop, something like that. And it's open all the time on our website. Yeah.
You want to skip this?
We have an artist registry. So why that is okay.
Okay, Fraser's turn. All right. What is it, grants?
Okay, so you want me to show some of the actual applications?
Yeah, I think we should start with getting it founded and how you would start.
Okay, so,
Or well, actually, no, probably just that. I think that
okay, so I'm going to sign into our grants portal, which you do on our website. Click on grants, go into grants portal, and you're going to be creating an account. Now, I already have an account, or I can go in Scarletts account.
well, she won't be able to use it.
Oh, okay, you don't have it. So you will get guidance on how to create an account once you get in here if you don't already have an account. And you'll create a password and username, which is always your email address.
I don't even remember how I started. Feels like I just always have. Anyway.
I'm for real, I've called them and been like, I don't know what this question means, and they're like, it means this.
Okay, thanks. All right, bye, I'll call you if I have other problems.
Okay, where am I not getting it?
And technology, I knew it was.
Where did he just
Don't say that too loud in my car. You just got back.
oh, now this non-like, oh, this non-like, no.
Maybe you can do it. No, this is ours. Here on the state. And, I'm signed up with you. Oh, that's why we should go back to the website and go through that way. You sign in to the, Sally and the Delicious portal.
No, I'm not.
That's the one I signed up.
Did you get in, Fraser?
I thought no, this is not the, no, can you come see if you can get in?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Try to use it.
I hope I know. I hope I know my password.
No. No.
Hmm? Oh, well,
Yeah, that's what I was like, it's not working.
mm,
You go in under.
no.
I like him best.
No, you're locked. I don't know why you're locked.
I am starting. I try different browsers.
Yeah, I'm about to.
I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's just, you know.
So, grants interface.
Oh, no, I go through the website.
Oh,
Oh,
I didn't mean
yeah,
to-
no, that.
Sorry. Where's the portal? Oh, yeah. Okay, try yours now, because I definitely don't know my password.
That's crazy. I don't know what else to do here. I better know my password. Sure what- You wanna do it like that? Wait, after you.
Oh, no, I'm putting it in, right? It's one of two, options here.
And mine, I know mine is not working.
And, talking license.
Mhm.
So we got to get one. We got to
Tell them something.
what?
Where we
It
at?
was going so well, too.
Yeah. So, yeah. And you're a small, you know. So when we, it's just. Yeah.
I have a friend who grew really well, and he's now.
Yeah, try to get in on your laptop.
At least, that's true. So there's a different ways
you know
What it
yours
is,
for
they
sure.
have all of that.
But try
Yes,
to find it here.
you lose
Okay.
25 to 50%, because that's your broker fee, basically.
Right.
Exactly. So you want them to be making their own calls and doing their work, and you want to go out there and try to pick up that. There's lots of, there's all that stuff. You can, there's, I'll have to look and see exactly what you do that for, but, so
in Nashville, they have.
there's a lot of people just trying to take.
Well, but there's a lot of people out.
Yeah, and the thing is those people out there, so that's mostly thinking to, what you're talking about is paying for recommendations. And, you can get,
This is for moving.
yeah, and you can actually live in somewhere, you can get in a stable that is, that you basically go in, and right there for like 8 hours, and you clock out.
Yeah.
For writing music, for like writing lyrics and creating music, yeah, so that's
Try this for
really the role of. Because that way it's stable. I mean, there's culinary classes that get picked up and stuff, a lot of times. Like, you're not starving.
Right.
The other way to do it is having culinary. Which is one of those Thursday.
Like I say,
Yeah.
Here you go.
But I've met people like, if you go to,
I know my password.
Yeah.
I guess could you search organizations, do it that way, see their application?
That is what I'm
On stuff like that, yeah. We went on that.
Sorry for the delay, we're, we over here. Okay.
Okay, so, let's see. I'm just choosing one that I know has applied with a lot of different, has had a lot of different grants. Okay, so we talked about, which one? After
School
school?
or after school, either one.
Okay, let's go to it in school. Okay, let's go to an in school. After school, after school, after school. Okay, so showing you what an in-school grant looks like. This is Wildwood organization. I got a picture. Okay. So at the beginning of the application, there are a few questions that our funder, we have to be answered by our funder. That our funder requires that we get information on. So some of these things are just things you have to go through and just answer the question. But Wildwood was applying to, it says seeks funding to provide year-long arts residency for 2,500 in 5 elementary schools. So they are a nonprofit that goes into elementary schools and presents arts programming. Wildwood. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, Scarlett's picture of his door.
It's going me on to it.
Which one are they? They are in school. They do it. They do it in school residency.
Yeah, so this is the up to $40,000 matching one major.
And they already have their own roster of arts.
No, they use our roster.
They use, well, they're on the roster.
Yeah,
So they use, yeah.
yeah.
And so, let's see, they have their mission statement. we ask for demographics. We ask organizations for demographics of your community because we want to know if you're reflecting work that's reaching your community, people in your community, the populations that are most in need in your community also. So they give all that information. They say they're going to have an estimate 47,000 people involved. They give a breakdown of their racial demographics of their area. See what's the most important.
What do they pay the artists? Where do they pay?
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how. I can show you what they asked for.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the budget form.
yeah. So this is that was their explanation of the event, but let's get to what y'all want. It's budget for.
Get the budget for.
So for mini grants, we require it's up to $175 a day, is that correct? For mini grants for the artists?
No, they can pay up to $175. They don't have to, but that's the limit.
Yeah. For the major grants, they include in their budget what their artist fees are going to be. It's kind of like between them
And the artists, yeah, they have to work that out.
Way more expensive than that.
Right.
But if that's who they choose to hire, then they can pay them. They can pay them. Yeah.
From the lump sum.
As long as it's in the budget form, how much is going towards them.
Yeah.
You know, 90% of your budget is artist fees, like raise red flag for the viewers. Like, they really using the funds.
Right.
And
And the budget form is the big one.
yeah, that's right there.
Which will show them what they pay artists.
And
Just
you're saying you want,
double click
Double click what?
open file on friend or download.
Oh, okay.
and you're saying if they are not using other funds.
Yeah, that's just like an
Red
extreme
flag.
example. It's like, well,
Yeah.
where are your funds for planning, for evaluations, for materials? You know, if you're got our teacher coming in there, like the supply portion of the budget should be pretty high, right? For play, whatever. Oh, there we go. There's the budget.
I have a very tight schedule.
What was that, Scarlett? Was I supposed to?
There you go.
Yeah,
Just,
but it's
Can you just exit that out?
yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Just click accept.
Okay. So, like Matt said, we don't dictate to them what they pay their artists, except in a mini grant. In a mini grant, you can, like he said, you can only pay $175 a day for an artist, but you can pay for the materials, you can pay for lodging. Some artists come from out of town, they need lodging, you can pay for all that. Okay, so these are the expenses that Wildwood said that they were going to incur for their artist fees. This is
That's so old, but really appreciating it like the young man.
Right.
Once it goes to sleep after an hour.
don't have to click laptop.
Oh, I did already. It's coming back up.
Ding.
It's sensitive.
Yay, technology.
Okay. So the total, so they asked for $40,000, which is the max you can ask for. they said that they're gonna use $27,000 of the funds for artist fees. That's how much they're gonna pay their artists. They're gonna have a planning meeting. There's some travel involved. That they're gonna reimburse people travel supplies. They're spending $5,000 for publicity and documentation. So I guess the marketing of their events. They have a space rental of $2,000 and artist preparation time. That's gonna be. So,
That's most.
yeah,
Most likely, yeah.
they have a lot of artists. No, they have a lot of artists. In fact, I may have their artist list.
Should be on that.
Yeah, you have to provide your artist list. But the budget for arts and education is really a cut, dry, pretty simple budget showing. I mean, it's not complicated.
So as long as your first column on the left matches your second column, the column A, the total, the 40 matches the 40, and the B column, then we'll put it through the panel. If for some reason people do match, they are not actually matching them. They actually can do, well, then I gotta send it back to organizations, say, look, those numbers right there, they've got matches. Now, if you do have any time, you can put sheet 2, and you can explain what the Inkind Match would be,
Yeah.
and then that will cover it. So say you have 10,000 you're asking for, you can only match 5. Well, then on sheet 2, you really just type out like work up. Say our Inkind 5,000 is matched with,
Yeah, just as long as it equals whatever you're asking for. You have a match and you explain what that match is. Some of it may be cash, some of it is income.
Okay. So, the code for income could be for volunteers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's not an actual dollar.
Yeah, space rental's a big one that I see.
Yeah, it's a dollar amount.
Yeah.
So
It's what they're worth.
what you're
Yeah, normally this would cost you $500 right now, or I get it right on 500.
And then y'all match that dollar. Even though.
well, you're matching what you're asking us for.
Right, so like if the dollar amount for volunteers is 1,000, y'all will match the 1,000 in cash, right?
Well, yeah, we only give cash, but
Not cash, but you know, monetary, I guess.
yeah, you're showing us that what you're asking us for, you can match it.
Yes, but it's not money.
It's not
But
money.
y'all match it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not matching with volunteers. That's all Scarlett can do. But you're right. Now that you say that, you're right. I understand. And so the application asks you to upload different documents. They uploaded a list of their staff. Let me see where
Their artists should be artist signatures or.
they provide a list of their artists. I saw that.
I think it was back towards the bottom.
Is it toward the bottom?
So that's that part was the schools, the area thing, district.
So these are different people that they're using.
Right, so when I look at this, I go and I double check that all the names that are on this list are on our roster. If they weren't, that's when I would send them an email and say, look, if you want to use this artist, say April, she's not on our roster, but she needs to apply, fill out the AIE individual roster application form and send it with this, and then they'll both get reviewed.
I'm just kidding, and
It is a
send
lot.
it.
It is.
Yeah, unless you're not gonna pay her with our money. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not gonna, right, if you're gonna pay her with other money, they don't have to be on the road.
Okay, so I'm talking about the BMA get on the roster.
Right, yeah.
Or-
This is
or
just an
an
example.
organization
Yeah,
like
there's,
that, yeah.
So AIE is different. AOT.
Yeah.
So AOT wouldn't be what, well, it would be arts and education. Okay. Got it. So then.
I'm sure that, Wildwood has done some AOT stuff before though.
Yeah. Okay, anything else you all were specifically oh, y'all wanted to see a curriculum, right? You wanted to see how a curriculum looked?
Sorry, we've been over our time.
The deadline for AI, I mean AIE. We have deadline.
Yeah, the next AIE application will open.
Tangent.
Oh, I think I did April and May.
You're the only one that apparently successfully remembers your password. We done all put in 2 and 3-year-old passwords. Now I hope I can get in when I get back to the office.
I'm gonna get, she's Scarlett's already locked out. Yeah. I know. They kept thinking that we were you.
Yeah, and so it locked you out.
So you gotta call that.
Well, no, when we get back to the office, if you can't get in,
Gosh.
I'll have to go in and reset your password.
I think, going through the arts.
That's a curriculum.
First thing brings your account, then your key doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, you're like, hey.
Hey, by the way.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is that curriculum application we were all talking about. So, let's see what they say there. This project will produce curriculum and related professional development for teachers and teaching artists. So these are the people they're bringing in, Art Symphony Orchestra, Children's Concert in Hot Springs. They're gonna, their performances, they perform, they're giving the, what these particular people have done. It says write and revise curriculum for 50 integrated arts units that support teaching artists residencies in at least 25 schools in Arkansas. So grant dollars will be used to pay for teaching artists who help with the curriculum, professional development for teaching artists and teachers using the curriculum, calls for producing Arkansas Symphony Orchestra children's concert and curriculum materials. So part of their integration is that these children that they're teaching are going to end up the final product. They're going to have a concert. They're going to do a concert from the things that they've learned. Arkansas Symphony Orchestra is a part of this, and they're going to end up creating a concert.
Seems like it's weekly strength class, but it's
they have 8 schools that participate. They're being included in a study undertaken by an education research professor from the University of Central Arkansas. Okay.
So that's most likely their consultant.
That's going to help them, yeah. And that's how they're going to use that baseline data for their outcome. Let's look at their budget. And actually, most of the grant, this application is really like detailed because this was written by a person that is extremely detailed to the T. He's written this grant for many years. So. Okay, so their budget. So his expenses, artist fees, of course, travel, lodging, publicity. Most of his money is being used for publicity. Lodging, meals, yeah. Because as we said, the money, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of money for the writing of the integration in the curriculum and all of that. So he's paying artists, it looks like it's probably 1 or 2 artists that are really being paid for that. And the rest of the money is being used for the publicizing what they do in their event and all that. But I think that's a little heavy for this. I had to talk to Mark. Sure.
So you can see like column A, or line 8, how it's 3,500, 1,750, how those don't exactly match, that's fine. You know, where they want to, say this is where our money is coming from, the arts council money, but like I said, the only thing that matters is that it all adds up to the same number at the bottom.
Right, so he didn't have to match this completely because he's asking us for $3,500 for artist fees. He didn't have to match just $3,500 worth of artist fees. He could make up that match somewhere else.
Yeah, so it was actually 5,000.
Yeah.
251.
Right.
Which that may be him bringing in artists, those 3 artists.
Right, because he definitely brings in other people that are not on our.
The Learning Through the Arts is an interesting organization.
Yes.
They do a lot in Hot Springs. They also do some work in the West Kelowna area. They go to schools they've worked with before at new schools. They say they put together a big pamphlet of about 10 teaching artists from our roster. And they say, these are the AIE people that we have used before. And they go to schools and say, what do you want for this week long, say, residency week on poetry and dance and theater all the same week? And they say, yeah, and it picks those 3 people. So they're a little different though. I don't think everybody does that.
Yeah, because they get this grant, but they also get an InSchool grant.
Yeah. Learning Through the Arts.
Learning Through the Arts. They're an arts organization.
Yeah, they've been around for so long, and the artists that they like and that are requested a lot, they'll tell schools like this is our poetry person that we use. Not that there's only one poetry person choose from, but that's the one from the AIE roster that they like, that they think is great work, so they recommend that person.
That's a great example of like promoting yourself as an artist.
Yeah.
Partnership.
Right.
Building those networks.
Yeah, like they just added a dancer this year, and they liked what she did, and I actually watched her class, and they're like, well, next year, just going to request dance, that's weird. So, they do music, all the other. Is there anything else? Any other questions? Or I know we threw a lot at you today. Yeah. Scarlett is your contact for all the slides, presentations, and recording.
Definitely use each slide.
Yeah, everybody always on the car. That's where he was going. I was like that.
If you do need assistance with any of the AIE grants or applying for the roster, email me. I think I left.
Your name on the back of my car.
Yeah.
I've been giving out. Yeah, that's.
Oh, she does,
But if I have my own.
but yeah, it's all I was just about.
You registered that?
I did.
I'll see everyone.
Everyone, okay.
Oh, actually, you just, if I run into people, I'm like, hey, take a photo.
And we have upcoming workshops for how to start a nonprofit, historical research for the memoir or right, and the law of art, which is like contracts, taxes, state, liability, insurance, all of those kinds of things, all related to art, exhibition space, that kind of thing, all of that is this January 3rd, from the 31st. Those are the ones that are coming up next. And